All right, welcome everyone in the next lesson here. A very important one because we have a little problem here. Let me open up distance. Actually, I'm going to show you in the Explorer here, right? So you can see in our distance calculator in our main here we have a problem. You see client, new client, working out, right? Why? Because in our previous episode where we were a little bit struggling with the gRPC client, we changed that up, right? We changed the client up to new client, new HTTP client, and client, new gRPC client, right? So new client doesn't work anymore, right? How can we fix that? It's actually very simple, but not the best option. We could just do this, HTTP client, and everything is fine. Why? Because in new Kafka consumer, we can see that this aggregation client here is an HTTP client. You see, it's basically a dependency. It depends on an HTTP client. But what if we want an gRPC client? We can't. But there is an option, and that's going to be interfaces, right? Of course, there's also, again, another problem that could arise here. And that's programming, that's coming to encountering problems and trying to solve that, right? We're going to see that this client is calling aggregate invoice, which is actually not true because we are aggregating in distance, but that's nice because I said sooner or later, we're going to change that name. But the problem is that gRPC client is actually calling aggregate, right? You can see that in the proto file here. It's calling aggregate, which is also the name the client is going to use, right? In our temp, actually, to be honest, you could do temp. You could see here aggregate, right? That's the client. And they are actually, the one use distance, another one use type aggregate request. So yeah, but we can fix that. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually open up our folder here, boom, boom. And we're going to make a new file, and that's going to be a client.go. So we're going to say package client, type client, and we're going to say there's going to be an interface, right? And we're going to say, for example, what could be a good name, because one is using aggregate invoice, which makes no sense, and another one is using aggregate. So I think aggregate here, aggregate, it's going to be the best option. We're also going to give this a context because it's very important, especially in these clients. Context here, and then we're going to say, I think we're going to use the types aggregate request here. I think it makes sense. It's a prototype, but it's a Go type, so it's fine. And we're going to return an error. That's what we're going to do. That's our interface. The next thing we're going to do is open up this main in calculator here. Actually, no, we're going to say consumer here. And instead of making this an HTTP client, we could actually say a client is going to be a client.client, which is an interface, right? So now it's an interface. So everything that implements aggregate can be put into this thing. So we're going to say client, right? And then, of course, in main here, I'm going to click with my mouse. It's going to be faster for now. So this new HTTP client is not going to work anymore because HTTP client does not implement that. So we're going back to HTTP first. We're going to change this to aggregate, and we're going to say a context. CTX is going to be a context here, right? And the request, let's call this rec, is going to be a pointer of types instead of distance aggregate request, right? That's what we want in our client right now. Yeah, so we're going to say br JSON Marshall this request into bytes. Perfectly fine. Then we're going to basically say, okay, this request is conflicting with this request name. Yeah. I'm going to call this agrec or something. I don't know. We're going to say agrec like this. And then I think we're Gucci here, right? Look at that. It's beautiful, right? Yeah, I think it's a beautiful. So basically, what we could do in consumer, there's going to be a problem because here we're going to say client aggregate invoice. That's not true. We're going to say aggregate. This request is not going to be this distance anymore. It's going to be an ntypes dot aggregate request, which is going to work out fine. I think this is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be OBU ID. what type is this thing? It's an int32 because it's proto buffer, right? So we're going to call this int32 of this one. Then we're going to say aggregate. That's going to be a context. And we could do a context background here if we want. A request is this one, and it's all going to be fine, guys. Look at that. Beautiful. So what I want to test basically is if we can run the whole stack here without having problems. The first thing I'm going to make is the aggregator. I'm going to make the calculator. Yeah. Calculator. Yeah. What's going on? Make calculator, just like that. Then I'm gonna connection refused. Oh yeah, that's because I don't have Kafka running. Docker compose. Do I have this in the compose? Up -d. Yeah, Kafka zookeeper, all the shebang, lang, all fine and all good. Make calculator, that should work. Kafka's still not up actually, no problem. Docker ps, Docker ps. I think it's up right now. Let me see. Burgers are down. Is it again this Docker? So annoying. Docker compose down. Docker compose up. -d. Let's give it some time. I don't know how long it takes to boot up. Maybe it's Zookeeper. Maybe it's some other shenanigans. I don't know. All right. Let's see if that's going to work. Make calculator. Boom. Yes. Good. Working. What's the next one? Okay, that's topic. I know it's no problem. This is going to be... I don't know, actually. We have so many services. Make calculator receiver. That's what we want. Make receiver. And this guy. And then we're going to make the OBU, right? Make OBU. Boom. Everything is running up. We are receiving stuff. This is going to receive calculate distances. Beautiful. It's amazing. So what we need to do is check if everything is working. I think it's working because it's sending stuff, right? Look at this. Is this the aggregator? Yeah. You see inserting distance, which basically means our client is working. Fine. Let's kill this guy. Let's kill everything, actually, to be honest. Boom, 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 boom. All right, cool. Nice. So the first thing is in order, right? So now we have an interface. We can put our HTTP client in that. But can we do a gRPC client? Probably not, right? Look at this. It's going to be main here, right? Let's say, for example, HTTPC. Let's call it HTTP client. I'm going to do it like that. HTTP client is going to be this client, right? So I'm going to copy this. Boom. Paste that here, right? Perfectly fine. And we're going to say HTTP client. No. HTTP client. Yeah. You see? Working fine. But what if we do this? gRPC client, which they actually do the same thing. It's going to be a client, new gRPC client, and that's going to be an aggregator endpoint here. Perfectly fine. We cannot do that because gRPC returning an error if error is not null. Yeah, we're going to quickly do a log fail out here because it's a main function. It's fine. Hop. Boom. gRPC client. What if we do a gRPC client in this? That's not going to work. Why? gRPC client does not implement the aggregator interface. Well, aggregate interface, client interface. And now you can say, yeah, it does because it has the same function signature. That's not true. Because remember this types none, an error, that's basically what this gRPC has. But we only want an error because types none is, we don't use that, right? So, let's comment this out because otherwise compiler will complain for unused shenanigans here. So what we're going to do here with gRPC, client, Yeah, so what we're gonna do, we need to basically do some stuff, right? So what we're gonna do is wrap this thing in. Wrap, like a wrap. So we're gonna say, instead of making this again embedded, we're not gonna do that anymore, right? We're gonna say there's gonna be a client, the gRPC client itself, right? So instead of embedding this, we're gonna say client here. What's going on here, please? Can we? Okay, client, and we're gonna make this a function, right? We're gonna say func C gRPC client aggregate. It's gonna, hey, no, it's fine. We're gonna say CTX here. We want the CTX context. Well, the only thing we do is basically just implement the client interface, right? We just made, and then we're gonna say the request is going to be a types aggregate request, and we are gonna return an error, just like that, right? Boom, perfectly fine. Save this thing, please. Can VS Code save this? Yes, fine. So this is what we need, right? So, but how we're gonna fix that is we're gonna call, for example, we're gonna say this response we don't need, right? This response thingy, and then we're gonna say the error is going to be, excuse me, C client aggregate. We're gonna put the CTX in, we're gonna put a rec in, and then we're gonna say return error. That's it. It's that easy. You know what I mean? It's that easy. So if we open up, if we, now we have two things. Let's do this, make aggregator here, right? And if we now go to temp here, right? This is gonna work out because we have this stupid thing here, right? This none, we don't care about that. Now it's just an error, and we're calling aggregate, and under the hood we are calling the gRPC aggregate, right? So let's see if that works. Go run temp main.go up, and then see if we got it here, and we have our distance perfectly fine, processing and inserting the distance, fixed our problems. Now we have an interface. So that basically means that if we go back to main, right, you could see here, we can use an gRPC client, or we could use an HTTP client. If we comment that out here, HTTP client, and it's going to be perfectly fine. Everything is going to work, right? But yeah, that's the only thing you need to know, actually, to be honest. So it's a very short, it's 12, 15 minutes. It's a very short lesson, a very important lesson, right? We have two different things with two different functions. How can we make a generic kind of interface and let two of these behave like we want it to be, even though they have different functions itself, right? We wrap it and make sure they do what we want them to do. If that makes sense, right? Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.